Merry Christmas. uh, sorry, Lord Krampus. I mean, Happy Yuletides, everyone. Welcome to the depths. Hello, welcome to Reading from the Depths. My name is Lecton. Thanks for spending some time with me today. And that's right, today I am reviewing Krampus, the Yule Lord by Brom. You know, the first time I had a chance to read anything by Brom was earlier in the year, and I read Slewfoot, which is a kind of folk horror, spiritual horror story, and I loved it. I thought it was great. And then in the middle of the year, I read The Devil in Me, which is like an 80s possession story by him. And that one I wasn't so thrilled about. I liked it, but I didn't think it was great. But both of those encouraged me to look into Brom's past catalog, and I realized there are a bunch of books that he'd written that I wanted to read, including The Child Thief, which I believe is his take on the Peter Pan story, and then Lost Gods, and of course, this one, Krampus, the Yule Lord. And I knew I wanted to read this one around the Christmas season. It is kind of the only book I had earmarked for the Christmas season, and I'm very glad that I found time for it because I thought this was a great novel. You know, I don't have any particular affiliation with the Krampus mythos, but what I thought Brom did was finding a way to take the Krampus myth and the Santa Claus myth and make them work together in a way that neither of them seem like good guys or bad guys. He even says in the end of the book, when he's talking about why he wrote this book, is that when he first learned about Krampus, his first thought was, who would win in a fight, Krampus or Santa? And that was the germ for this book. Now, the book itself, what he does really brilliantly is he sets the book in the real world. This was written in 2011, so it's set basically in 2011 in a small town in West Virginia. And that small town is ravaged not just by poverty, but also by crystal meth addiction. So the real world scenario is a little bit grim. And our main character, our main human character at least, is a guy that's down on his luck. He is a musician, and his wife has left him and taken his daughter and has shacked up with the town sheriff, who is not a good guy, and who also works for the local kingpin, essentially, who is the drug runner in and out of the county and in the town. And our main character, Jesse, also has his hand in that world a little bit because sometimes that's the only way you can make money. So you have this conflicted main character who I thought was really interesting. He had a lot going on. He felt genuine. He felt real. And then he is contrasted with our supernatural character, mainly Krampus, but then also Santa, and then Krampus's helpers and Santa's helpers. And the way we're introduced to Krampus and Santa is that the very first pages you get from Krampus's point of view, and he says Santa is a liar. There's nothing about Santa that is true. Even that name is a lie, and it is a lie. You find out the truth, quote unquote, truth about Santa as the story develops. And he takes a lot of ideas from Norse mythology and he weaves them in, and he plays with these ideas of old gods whose power comes from faith and power comes from the devotion of people around them, right? And in the storyline, and you find this out right in the beginning, Santa has imprisoned Krampus for over 500 years. And our story starts with Krampus finally being broken out of this prison. And his path intersects with our main character's Jesse in an important way. And so Jesse ends up following along with Krampus, and Krampus agrees to help him get his wife and his daughter back from this corrupt sheriff. And so that's how Jesse throws his lot in with Krampus. Krampus, meanwhile, is trying to regain his strength and trying to go up against Santa and defeat him because Santa has made a perversion of the Yule season. You know, what is really fun about this, it's a dark fantasy, and it doesn't shy away from the fact that Krampus, you know, when there are kids that disobey him or are naughty, he puts them in his sack and he beats them bloody. Like, that isn't shied away from. Yet he's also a sympathetic character who cares about humankind and what he's doing for Yule, right? In the celebration of Yule, in celebration of Mother Earth, and in celebration of the season changing of transformation, and for there to be new birth from the coldness of winter. And so his celebration of Yule and Yuletide and the pagan traditions that are incorporated into his celebration are festival traditions. So what Brom does is he doesn't just take this dark, devilish character of Krampus. He doesn't make him out to be a fiend. Yes, he enjoys doing terrible things. He likes engaging in terrible, harmful, wicked acts, but only to those people who deserve it. So as a result, our main character Krampus isn't this evil counterpoint to Santa. And when you learn about Santa and the things that Santa has going on and who Santa really is and how Santa gets his magic and what he's done to get his magic, you realize that no one in this story is black or white. And so this feud between these supernatural forces and then the feud between the sheriff and our main character Jesse, those two things are paralleled and you see them developing in similar ways. And so I think Brom does a really good job of exploring these ideas of what it means to have long-lasting feuds between people that you should agree with, what it means that the power of belief in one another. Part of Jesse's problem is he doesn't believe in himself, and his wife doesn't believe in him either. His daughter does, but his wife doesn't. And so because of that, he is constantly on his back foot. Whereas the sheriff believes in himself too much. He's overly cocky and proud. And that is something that is attractive to Jesse's wife, who, wants security of some sort. And you see a similar dynamic at play with Krampus and with Santa. And this idea of belief, the power of devotion, the power of faith to create magic in the world. I think it's just a really smart play with these ideas. It could be a really silly shoot 'em up between Krampus and Santa, and it isn't. Brom takes the time to go into deeper ideas about what it means to exist in community, what it means to be of service in the world, what it means to be out of place in the world. There are moments when Krampus is looking around the world where everyone is addicted to their screens. And even though this book is in 2011, you visit a family and they're either on their phone or watching TV or playing video games. And he says, maybe there isn't a place for me anymore. Maybe the old gods don't have a place in this world anymore. So this idea of not fitting in, of not being where you belong, of having a calling but not knowing how to realize that calling, these are all ideas that are played with in this silly little Yule story that features a satanic goat, essentially, right? So I thought this was great. I thought his playing with the characters of Krampus and Santa were great. Brom didn't stick to any one mythology too tightly, and he played with the mythologies of them. I will say I didn't love the ending. The ending itself, as to where the story ended up, I thought was fine. But the kind of Deus ex machina that happened in the last few chapters that allowed certain events to resolve the way they did, I thought was a little too easy. It was a little too conservative. It like undid a lot of the magic of these multiple mythological entities simultaneously existing side by side, and what it meant for a spiritual life that is pervaded by multiple faiths simultaneously, and by multiple supernatural creatures that all are able to exist and coexist alongside one another. Some of that felt like it was undone by this really kind of almost lazy Deus Ex Machina that happens right near the end. Now, I like where it brought us. I like the end, right? I like what happened as a result of that. So I'm not too upset by it. And I liked the whole journey getting there. So I'm not upset by it. I do just wish it was done maybe a little bit differently. I will say the way it's written, nothing is concrete. Like there is still space in the way it's written for you to have your own beliefs about some of these supernatural events that are going on. So it's not 100% black and white, but it does feel like it draws a line in the sand. And it is a line that, this is not as interesting to me as other places the story could have gone. So I wasn't a big fan of that, yet it didn't matter because I thought the depiction of Krampus is great. Krampus like feeling unsure of himself and having these incredibly large, oversized emotions, but not just emotions of wanting to terrorize people, but emotions that he wants to save people. He wants to bring about a festival spirit that allows the new birth of the coming spring to awaken. He says it is necessary for him to engage in this Yuletide cheer in order to wake up nature, in order to wake up the earth, in order to make sure there is community not just among people, but between people and the nature that they exist within, right? So I think it's a really fun depiction of it. And right now, Yuletide lasts far after Christmas. It's the whole winter season. I highly recommend you read this book. It's one of those books that I would like to return to next year because it's a quick read, it's a fun read, it has beautiful art, which is always the case with Brom, and it uses a really interesting story to look at the real meaning of the season, right? The meaning of the season that we often try to take away in both a religious and a secular point of view of the Christmas season, the winter season, the solstice season, is that we recognize this is a time when it's dark. It's a time when people feel disconnected. People sometimes have seasonal affective disorder. They struggle, right? And it's a time to bring light and life and love and community into the world and to bring celebration. And this story plays into that, I think, in really beautiful ways, without being didactic, without hitting you over the head, with having a whole story about meth dealers and crackheads as part of the pieces that it puts together to tell this story. So, it isn't saccharine in any way. It has a really wonderful depiction of both, this beefy, muscular Santa Claus who winters in Spain, I should say, and really, sardonic, smart, just a little bit spicy Krampus and how they butt heads and what that means. And it's infused with Norse mythology. You get to see Odin's ravens and some wolves and some goats that you will recognize. So, I think it brings all these things together in a really fun way. I had a great time reading it. And if you are looking for a light in the dark season, if you're looking to bring the winter vibes and you're tired of the saccharine Christmas carols and you don't have any new Victorian horror novels or ghost stories to read, then I definitely recommend you pick up Krampus, the Yule Lord by Brom. I don't think you'll regret it. Have any of you had a chance to read this? I hope so. Or have you read any of other Brom's novels? I'd love to hear all of your thoughts down in the comments. But for now, I hope you have a wonderful holiday season. I hope you take care of yourselves. Thank you for spending time with me today. I appreciate you. Please be kind to yourselves, take care of each other, and go slowly.